morning and good afternoon, everybody. We are streaming today from Stefan's profile, and whatever we say now, we're just allowed to do that. And welcome to Noah, our guest today. Noah, it's so nice to meet you today.
It's a pleasure, Laura.
Really nice to be able to organize this session. I'm really excited to talk about marketing operations, down to earth stuff that people usually either overlook or deliberately forget to implement in their operations. Whoever is listening to us today, I would love to get a quick comment from LinkedIn so we know that we're live. I've seen we are, but sometimes some stuff might not work perfectly well. So give us a shout if you're here. And while we're getting those check-ins from people, Noah, I'm really excited to meet you today. When before the show we spoke about, you said it feels like I've known you forever, and in startup years, it's like more than dog years. So I'm so excited to speak with you today because you have been a follower, a person that we really, really respect in the market as well, working with our clients too. So real quick, an intro of you, Noah.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, hi guys and gals. I'm Noah. I'm the founder and managing partner at Checkpoint Go-to-Market. We're basically a boutique go-to-market consultancy. We focus on companies in their seed through Series C, basically helping with everything operational, strategy, coaching, enablement, you name it. I've worked with Laura on a couple of Dream Data projects, basically started off in marketing attribution and then worked my way into the rest of RevOps.
Amazing. It's a world that is a puzzle for a lot of people and a lot of companies, really. And we're going to speak about those 5 hard-learned lessons about marketing operations. So the lessons that we're going to talk about, did you make those mistakes yourself, Noah?
Oh, there might be some spelling and grammar mistakes in there. Patricia may or may not have edited it when I wrote it. I was in the middle of actually playing golf when I wrote it, so apologies.
That's okay. That's all right. but we are going to talk about the mistakes that marketing operations usually do
make
when kicking it off. But when working with your clients, so what I hear you say is you work with a little bit larger corporations, which means that it's not just the startup just kicking off everything. So where in the process do you usually come in when working with clients?
Definitely. Yeah, I would actually say like anything below like 150 million ARR is like my sweet spot. So like a lot of my clients have marketing budgets between, like 10K a month to like 200K a month in like spend at the end of the day. So it's actually more of like the smaller side of things. And so these are lessons that I've learned just basically through like seeing people coming to me with nothing and then having to set it up from scratch, or people coming with like semi-mature processes and then us having to then go in and like fix the little things in it.
Absolutely. And why do you feel that this is the sweet spot for you to come in and help them out with operations?
Yeah, I'd say it's really just that this is kind of like my passion at the end of the day, really like those like building those like small companies and getting them into like that revenue generation and that sustainable growth is kind of like what I love in my career at the end of the day. When you're like working at a larger company and with larger companies, like they generally have all of those processes set up at the end of the day. And so my joy is in like helping those like smaller guys actually, get it all together and get it working.
Don't fail. Huh? Here's a
yeah, exactly. Like, we can do it together.
Exactly. Yeah. And people who are listening to us today, thank you so much for giving us a shout that you're here. Let us know what questions you've got. We're going to be taking questions along the way while we speak. So along every single point that we're talking about, we're going to pause for questions and going to pick up some of the ones that you've got. And of course, you can always reach Noah on LinkedIn. You've got it. Okay, so let's start from the first one. What do you see as the first mistake that people should avoid making?
Do I have to go in order? Because I'd say actually the first one might be okay. Good, because the first one's probably like the last one,
and then we're gonna shuffle up the order.
That sounds good. I would say like the first thing is to like have like clean data entering your system. That's like the big thing that I see like most often, especially at smaller companies. It's really that people just throw data in and then they use it in that moment and they know how they're using it in that moment. But then when they return to it a year or two later, it's bad data. And so I've seen it where people, they don't know if it was an inbound lead that they imported, if it was an outbound lead that they were optimizing on. They have no clue years down the line. And so I just say, like, make sure that you're understanding like where your information is coming from, and when you import it into your CRM for marketing uses, that you actually then like can see that in the future. So always, like, from the very beginning, clean data.
And when you're saying put that in the right way in the system, so okay, a lead is a lead. Where do you mark it that this came from one source or the other, so you know it for the future?
Depends on the CRM, of course. In HubSpot, it would be like original source and original source type would be kind of like the two fields there. In Salesforce, it's, I think, just lead source at the end of the day, and that converts into deal source later on in the deal cycle. They're very standard fields in the CRM, and it's really like the backbone of, like, very basic data entry and data quality at the end of the day.
Very nice. And if now I'm a company who has this messy data and it's like, oh my God, what do I do with this? So is there a possibility to go back and at least fix a little bit of the gaps?
Yeah, sometimes. I have to deal with this sometimes with some of my clients, and it can be a lot of like head scratching to figure out how to do it. Like, in a good example of this is like in HubSpot, if you just import data and it's just like an email and the phone number, it'll let you do that. But but you don't. All you have then is like the name of like the lead list at the end of the day, or that you imported on, and so you have to do like some deep diving. And if that data is really old, you can be in a little bit of trouble at the end of the day. So just chasing down the people that imported the data and asking them where did this come from is probably your best case. Otherwise, guessing and then kind of also digging into the analytics of that client. Like, maybe they're actually doing some touches with you at the end of the day, and you're, maybe you can figure out through that if they were inbound or outbound at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. And we've got a question along with that as well. It's coming up. Any personal best practices you swear by to ensure the quality of the data in the CRM is good?
Yeah, I would just say, like, having those required fields for like lead source, like making sure that you have a really good import template in place to say like, hey, like, this is how I want the data to enter every single time, is going to be like the best thing that you can possibly do for your data quality. So, choose those fields very early on. And if you don't choose them, then like define them immediately and then start using them, so that you can then like kind of have that as like your core, like, it's not, there's a lot of fields in these CRMs. Like Salesforce, I think, has hundreds of native fields, HubSpot the same. And really, like, you want to pick those like 10 that you're going to use for tracking and reporting, especially when it comes to marketing attribution and attribution in general.
Yeah, very cool. Great. So thank you for this one. What's the second one on your list after the clean data entering the systems?
We're gonna go with number 2,
and
that is and that's having an inbound outbound flag is the key to understanding your early funnel. I get so many people that they want to know how much to spend on marketing, they want to know how much to spend on their inside sales team, and without an understanding of what's coming inbound into your funnel and what's going out of your funnel, can't do that at the end of the day. And so really, like, that very simple designation, like, it's great. It's amazing if you can understand, if it's coming from Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. But at the end of the day, we need to understand, is it coming from marketing or is it coming from sales? And so having that distinction very clearly is like the best thing that you can possibly do. And I can tell you also too that the CRMs also don't come with that natively. So you have to really set that up and figure out, either through workflows or through formula fields, how to actually achieve that.
All right. And any best practices on setting up those fields, like if you're just kicking off your operations and you want to make sure that having those flags right in the places. So we do that well from the start. What are the good practices?
Yeah, really just understanding what channels you're using, and going back to the first point, making sure that in the imports you're designated that original lead source or that lead source in Salesforce, just making sure that you understand, okay, like, is this something that I have, acquired through like searching on LinkedIn and I'm going to outbound to them, or is it something that came in through like a form fill at the end of the day, or a webinar, attendee list?
Right. And what will that help you in the future? Because now we're coupling the two: clean CRM data and inbound, outbound.
It helps you know where you're getting your leads from, first of all. So are you getting them from marketing? Or are you getting them from sales? And then it can help you kind of figure out where to do that spend. Like, as a sales leader or as like a leader of a company, you can understand, okay, like, am I getting most of my leads from my inbound funnel, or is it coming from this outbound sales approach? And where are the gaps and where do I want to go? Generally speaking, I mean, it depends on the company, but like ideally you'd want like maybe like 70-50. I mean, you could tell me, Laura, which you like more, but in terms of inbound versus outbound, but 70-30, 50-50, like you want to understand like what these ratios are in terms of that, and then to optimize based off of like, what's costing you less money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, ask me. I like 0 to 100, and the 100 is inbound. No,
only inbound.
Yeah. Only inbound, nothing else.
Yeah.
As long as you've got the rest in place, like quality marketing bookings that are coming in through, well, what's not to like? But at the same time, like if you work in the realms of predictive revenue, then you definitely set up a lot of outbound, you know how to scale and so on. And for marketing, it takes longer time for you to set it all up to figure out how do I predict stuff coming up from marketing. So inbound should be predictable, but it's in a lot of companies, it still feels that it is not. What do you think?
I completely agree. I think that at the end of the day, marketing is kind of like, to a lot of people, a black box, right? Like we're talking about the basics right now, like, simple things, but to get to that next level of understanding, what these channels are and how they're impacting revenue and how to optimize on them, that can be very difficult for marketers starting out. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why a lot of companies do like outbound, because I can scale. I hire.
I mean, even then in this like the market conditions we have right now, it's difficult to outbound. Like the pitches are changing, like AI is changing how people do email. Like there's a lot of different headwinds in outbound as well that are making it a huge challenge for people as well.
And the problem, or the positive thing, depending on where you are on the buying cycle side, is that people want to buy without salespeople being involved. And if somebody reaches out to you, offering you something, saying, okay, sounds interesting, I might not even respond, but go back and see what you've written and people see about you, and then go back to the salesperson or come inbound again. So it's like, try to predict
exactly.
that.
Yeah, this is why I love product-led growth. Like just having sales cycles without salespeople, like, and then having the salespeople when it's necessary, of course. But really, product-led growth is just such a dream in that way, where it just makes it so simple and so easy to have that sales cycle for a great inbound funnel at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It was crazy scary for me when we opened up the product and saying, okay, so salespeople out, product in. It's like, it depends. It depends. I'm still here. Huh?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are still there. I'm sure your jobs changed like a little bit, right? But you have all these better enablement tools at the end of the day. Like that's what I love about product-led growth, because especially when it comes to like onboarding and product education, it just makes it so much easier for the salespeople to kind of like move those sales forward at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving over to any questions, if you've got any questions. So now we spoke about flagging inbounds versus outbounds. If you've got any questions or any practices you would like to share and get Noah's advice upon, feel free to comment on those and we will definitely pick that up. And we're moving on to the next one. Number 3.
Number 3 in German, number 3. So it's gonna be the first one now, which is consider attribution before you have to. So right, like we're building like it's kind of like we're growing a garden, I could say. Like first we started with a data import, then inbound, outbound. Then the next thing that you should consider is just general attribution at the end of the day, which is what Laura, your company, does at the end of the day, and what we both know Dream Data is really good at. Basically understanding what those channels in your inbound funnel are, and also, what channels in your outbound funnel, is it email, phone, I don't know, LinkedIn, that's working the best at the end of the day. And so determining from a very early stage, like how to actually do your attribution, is it with the Dream Data, is it with the HubSpot native, and then going through the motions of then like understanding that and iterating and analyzing, that's primo at the end of the day.
What are the data pieces that you think companies have to think about thinking in attribution, like ahead of the time?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say that first things first, and this is something I think, Laura, that you know better than me. It's like it takes like 3 to 6 months, like right, a full sales cycle before you even have your attribution data like ready to understand and to use. And so the earlier like you install your pixel, the earlier that you click yes and turn on like the attribution models that you're working with, the better you'll be in terms of iterating on those processes later in time. So first things first, that's it. I'd say getting the pixel on the website's the first thing you do, right? Understanding the sources of the leads coming to your website, getting the form integrated with your CRM, making sure that you can, check that data in the form against what's actually going on the website. And then like the third thing would then be understanding which channels are then doing and iterating on it. And then the fourth would then be those outbound channels, right? Like making sure that you have the attribution for the webinar signups, for like, the form, like not the form, for like the events, and then also for the cold calls, etc.
Yeah. How strict do you think companies should be with UTM mapping?
How strict do you think that they should be with UTM mapping?
0 to 100?
I don't know. It depends on how much inbound you're doing and how much you're spending on marketing. I would say I like to think that like the more you spend on marketing, like the better you should be about understanding where everything's coming from, right? So like my benchmark is basically like 20 to 30K a month in spend is when like you need to get really serious about it, because that's like the price of, I don't know, like really small cars, or like, I don't know, like a motorcycle or something at the end of I guess it's two motorcycles. I don't know. I haven't bought a car, so I don't know. Yeah. I mean, like you can get like, yeah, whatever. I mean, like maybe like half of a car these days, or like a used Camry. I don't know. Yeah. But if you're spending that much on a monthly basis, that's a lot of money, and you need to understand how you're spending it and what you're spending it on, right? Like, is it better to invest in like, webinars like this, or is it better to like throw money into LinkedIn ads or into other sources at the end of the day? Like, this is what attribution can help you with, and you need to set it up early before you think you need it, so that you understand it when you want it. So it's like it's a multi-month, quarter long process to like really get up and running. And I'd say tell people, if you really are going to spend money, if you're going to ramp your spend, you need to have that earlier than later.
I like that. And I like the retrospective view into kind of the spend of your marketing as well, because you will not probably get an attribution platform before your spend is significant for your company as well, because that is when it really starts to hurt, because I have no idea how those ads are performing lower down the funnel. And from my experience, when prospects come in over to Dream Data, it's like a dream of somebody has already looked up what you do, they know what they need of attribution, they submit their form, they probably even start a trial with you, so the full product-led growth shebang. And then they come over to the salesperson, and the salesperson opens up the trial and say, whoa, this is like 80% perfect. Like, we can see your traffic, where it's coming from. We connected the CRM, and now look at this. We can almost explain how each and every ad has performed on your current new business closed. This is like the dream. So be that company.
Yeah. Exactly. That's actually why I love Dream Data, and that you've opened it up to like having like a free version at the end of the day, because if you don't have that spend today, you can start the tracking now and then activate like the full feature set when you have the spend, which is extremely smart from a product strategy perspective.
Yeah, grow with the tracking, and then connect the CRM when you have it or when you finally think that it hurts and you need it. All right, so we're moving on to number 4. I'm just going to go through the 3 ones. So first of all, make sure that data enters the systems, have inbound and outbound flags to understand your early funnel, start thinking about attribution before you feel you need to. And what is number 4, Noah?
Number 4 is going to be having a well-defined life cycle will save you in the long run. So actually, this is really funny, because I don't know if life cycles are native to HubSpot, or I think that Marketo has something like a life cycle, but let's quickly define what a life cycle is for those that don't know. Basically, it's like the marketing journey at the end of the day. So from, a subscriber to a lead to, someone that you've been in contact with, all the way through to, customer and then evangelist of your product. It's a way for the marketers to understand exactly where this like person, this like individual is in the life cycle of their marketing journey, and I think having an understanding of where these people are in the journey is very important, but also like correctly defining them, correctly describing them, so that then you can change your marketing activities based off of this, right? I see a lot of companies that it's back to black boxes. They don't understand if a prospect has been in their system and been in contact, with sales before. They don't know if they've been opening emails. They don't know even if it's like marketing qualified or like if there's product market fit at the end of the day. And so really having an understanding of who these prospects are and where they are in their life cycle is
Mhm.
key to kind of understanding how to actually market and engage with these people.
Would you bucket them as persons or accounts or leads?
Fun. So in HubSpot, it's generally like the contact. So the contact has a life cycle, and then there's this option to like surface it to the company. So I would say that, and I like that as a best practice at the end of the day. So really, like it's an individual. You target the individual. Maybe you have individuals in different stages, right? Like if you're, for instance, doing account-based marketing or account-based sales, you could target a buying committee of like 10 people, and like 3 of these people might be in the MQL stage, marketing qualified, and you haven't gotten in touch with them. But 1 or 2 of them might be actually in your active sales process, so they would be sales qualified leads. And you would probably want to do very different marketing to these people at the end of the day. Actually, your marketing qualified probably needs much more, like you can be more hands off, right? You can do like marketing email engagements, you can do like LinkedIn ads, like very much about like educating on the product. If it's in the
Mhm.
sales cycle, you probably even want to turn off some of that marketing content, sales focus on the deal at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That
that's how
sounds
I would
smart.
use it. Yeah,
Yeah, and like don't spam people who are already interested and like almost are advocates for what you're doing.
exactly.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Stopping here for questions. So right now we spoke about the well-defined life cycles to save you in the long run for where are your prospects in the life cycle itself to prepare you for better operations. If anybody has any questions or any other questions as well to talk about marketing operations, feel free to do that as well. Because before any further ado, we're going to number 5.
Which is
Going
the
number
same
5.
thing in English.
Yes. So Noah, what
Uh,
is the final mistake that people should avoid?
it's actually very much like a revenue operations topic, actually. So, all of these have really been about like MarOps, but from a RevOps perspective, I would say, it's important that sales and marketing are working together, right? Unless it's like true exclusive product-led growth, there's no sales team. You need to have a sequence in place to follow up in all of your inbound leads. I see it a lot where there's a lack of accountability for like these beautiful inbound leads, people interested in your product, and then this follow up and like getting them like to actually like convert into deals at the end of the day. And so having like a very clear like handover between marketing and sales, and also bringing those 2 teams together to then like work these leads at the end of the day is like the one of the most important things I would say at the end of the day for success.
Very nice. And when you're saying most important, what does that help companies with?
Conversions. I mean, basically, right? Marketing at the end of the day, right? They're building a funnel. They're putting in people into like the top of the funnel, and then it's up to sales to close at the end of the day. And having a sequence in place for all the leads coming in holds the sales team accountable for those leads that marketing is feeding them, right?
Mhm.
Like it makes it so that there's this feedback loop and there's a dialogue also around like quality of the leads coming in. Like are we getting the right MQLs? Are they converting into the right SQLs? And then holding everybody accountable for like what's actually happening in the marketing and sales cycle.
Yeah. I love that also because it brings the 2 teams closer together internally, marketing and sales. And for the buyer, it has to be that seamless experience that I'm not being handed over from automatic marketing sequences now to something personal in sales. It just works because you know where I am as a prospect and how to talk with me. I think this is key.
It's got to work that way. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Having those clear handovers is like, especially from like a white glove perspective, right? I mean, like we've been kind of focusing on like B2B software sales in this conversation at the end of the day, or just things, or just sales processes with longer, like higher ticket, like longer processes and higher ticket values. But really that's like the key, right? Like have clear handovers, clearly defined data, and then an understanding of what's actually in your system.
Absolutely. And I have summed them all up to put them on the screen if anybody would like to screenshot them as well. So now, before we get any questions to move ahead, here are the learnings that we have been speaking about. So make sure the clean data enters the systems, have an inbound, outbound flag to understand your early funnel, consider attribution before you need to, and well-defined life cycles will save you in the long run. And the final one, well, understand and create rules around how your data enters the systems so you don't lose track of your leads. And I would add that it not only helps you not to lose the deals, but also helps you sell more personal to the prospects that you're selling to, because the handover between marketing and sales is becoming much more seamless from the buyer's perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And since we don't have more questions, Noah, I would like to move this conversation a little bit more into the, like, when you start working with a company, and you can see that you don't start working with them when they need everything from scratch, because you feel like you've got the grip of it when you don't have that many leads. But when you come in and you can see that there are a lot of things that we need to fix for marketing operations to actually function, where do you start?
What a great question. I always start every project the same way, with like a go-to-market analysis. Basically, like it's a set of like well-structured questions and a deep dive into both their marketing, operations, and sales processes at the end of the day to understand like where are the pains and what needs to be fixed. In this like, analysis, we identify basically like what is it that's going well and that we don't need to touch, and then what's not going so well. So very simple things like diving into the CRM and looking at where the data is and isn't is probably like the first thing I do at the end of the day to kind of figure out, okay, from a strategic perspective, like where are the pain? And then also just talking to people. Usually like the marketeers and the salespeople know like where the kind of like the burden is in their sales process and their marketing process. And so just talking to people at the end of the day is like always very good to see like what people are doing. And I'd say like everything that kind of we've talked about too, like when I speak with my clients, like they're all aware that these are issues and they're also trying to solve them themselves. I just use through, go-to-market consulting, I can help enable that at the end of the day.
Right. And who are the people in which teams that you involve the most in the project when you start?
It's everyone. Every revenue generation team member is eventually influenced by go-to-market consulting. I usually work with leaders at the end of the day, so sales leaders and marketing leaders. But we do trainings with all of the teams. Like I also enable the people sending the emails on the marketing side, the people setting up the forums. Like everybody has some issues sometimes. So always there to help. Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Noah, before we finish off the session, is there anything that we forgot to mention that is really key for people kicking off operations to keep in mind?
I would just say to always take a bird's eye view, right? It's like, I think that a lot of people in their jobs, they're very like, in the weeds and like focused on like, the nitty gritty. And it always helps to just like take a step back and like look at kind of the processes that you have, look at, how things are set up and challenge the status quo. I think that a lot of the time, like you can do incremental improvements yourself just by thinking through, what am I doing and could I be doing it better at the end of the day? And so that's the place to start, really. Like if you can definitely like, if these 5 things really resonate with you, go after them, but there's going to be more. Of course, there's going to always be like different things to iterate and adjust. And so really just try to take the step back and say, does this make sense? And if it doesn't, then think through how to solve it.
Right. I love that. Absolutely. All right. So we are on the top of the half hour. Noah, I want to thank you for today's conversation. And I wish you success with all the companies that need help cleaning up. It's like you will never be out of work.
I don't think so. I'll see you later, Laura. Take care.
Thanks. See ya. Thank you, everybody.